Once you get on a show like The Housewives, where the core of it is opulence and wealth and being around other women and designer clothes and designer bags and their big houses, and it's like, what? I have to be able to keep up. If I don't keep up, what does that mean for me on the show? What does that mean for my reputation? What does that mean for the way people perceive me? Well, I would argue, how's that reputation now, Wendy? Hello, and welcome in. Welcome to another episode of Morgan's Pop Talks, breaking down the latest in reality TV and pop culture. As always, so much to discuss today. We have another housewife arrested in the slammer. Well, she's not in the slammer anymore, but she was for a hot second. Love is Blind, episode 7 through 9. We're kind of returning a little bit to normalcy there, which is good to see. And then, of course, the Southern Charm trailer came out this week. So super exciting week for all reality TV lovers, for pop culture lovers. But, we got to do the top of the show rant. And I don't know if I'm the only one. I just want to survey the audience. Now's the time we cancel our gym memberships, right? I'm not the only one. Because, when you start to roll around into October, November, December, those gym memberships, they're just not as important as they were May, June, July. You know what I'm saying? So I just signed my cancellation policy and I blamed it on the surgery, which partially is true. After I have the surgery on November 20th, I'm not supposed to do any extraneous activity for, the doctor said 2 to 4, but ChatGPT said 6 to 8 weeks. So no running for me for 6 to 8 weeks. So I'm just encouraging all of you girlies out there, if you're on the brink of canceling the gym membership, just do it. Use any excuse you need to. It's actually also a form of self-care. It is. I am using every excuse in the book, because I just moved. So now my gym was 30 minutes away from my house? Absolutely not. You're telling me I got to drive 30 minutes there, take an hour class, and then drive 30 minutes back? That's 2 hours of your day gone. Do I have 2 hours to spare? Yeah, I do. I work from home and I report on TV shows, so I'm not pressed for time all that much, but it just makes sense in my head. I got to find a gym closer to home. I got to save that gas money any way that I can, because BravoCon's coming up. And I don't know if you know, but it costs an arm and a leg and your firstborn child to afford a ticket to BravoCon. And not just a ticket, you got to pay for the hotel, you got to pay for the flights. So I'm looking at it as being frugal, not lazy. But really, it's a combination of both. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this week's Pop 3. These are the biggest headlines in reality TV and pop culture, and we have nowhere else to start but the fact that Dr. Wendy Osefo was arrested last week, along with her husband, Eddie, on over 30 charges combined, including multiple felonies. So let's break it down. Wendy is facing 16 counts, including 7 felonies of giving false information. Eddie is facing 18 counts, including 9 felonies. I know what you're asking. I can hear you. Well, what did they do? They staged a burglary, essentially. Allegedly, that's what they're being accused of. So, and Wendy has talked about this on public platforms. So they said, we were on a family vacation in Jamaica. We came home. We found that our house had been broken into. All of these things were stolen. So then they sent an itemized list to the insurance company of all the things that were stolen. The claim was worth $450,000. And they think it's a scam. The authorities say it's a scam. Investigators say there were no signs of forced entry. Several of the stolen items had actually been returned to the stores for refunds before the alleged break-in. Crazy. Wendy was later seen on social media wearing a diamond ring that she reported stolen. I believe she also wore it to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Authorities say they found about 15 of those missing items during a search of the home. And then there's a paper trail. Eddie and Wendy are emailing back and forth. Why are they emailing each other? They live in the same house. They could have a face-to-face conversation. But Eddie emailed Wendy saying, can you give me a few more items so I can really bump this claim up and hit our $450,000 threshold? That's in an email. I thought Eddie was a lawyer. And you're putting that in an email. All around, across the board, not great decision making coming from Wendy and Eddie, allegedly, supposedly. So since the arrest, Wendy has resigned from her teaching job at Wesleyan University. Bravo has pulled her episode of Wife Swap. So you guys remember, there's like this little mini series coming to Bravo, Wife Swap. Wendy was going to do it. Melissa Gorga. Who else was it? Angie Katanavis. And then I'm forgetting one, and it's going to like hit me like a ton of bricks. Emily Simpson. So just like a 4 little spinoff situation. Wendy's episode was going to be first. They're not airing it, which I'm actually kind of surprised by that because I feel like Bravo, what do they have to lose really? Like, it's not them, they're not the one that is participating in illegal activity, allegedly. So it's like, if I'm Bravo, I'm like, people are going to watch this episode. We should still air it. But I don't know if it gets dicey about using Bravo episodes as potential evidence in court. I don't know how that goes, but the decision was made to pull it. So her team says that she and Eddie are in good spirits and looking forward to their day in court. But this is another huge scandal for a housewife. And I think this one was really surprising because when you look at Wendy, it just seemed like she had all of her stuff together. Very accomplished, a great family, very successful, had her head on her shoulders. Turns out they're allegedly running this insurance claim scandal upwards of $450,000. And I just would never think that her and Eddie would do it. And, I think that just goes to show you, and I just talked about this because I just did a review I read Carl Radke's book that's coming out in December. I'm going to post it soon, so if you guys keep an eye out, or I'm going to talk about it in Bravo Friday as well because I just finished it. But you watch these people on TV and you think you know them. You don't. You don't. You know probably 5% of that person and their story. And when you hear it in their own words and their remembrance of things, you're like, oh, I really had no idea who these people are. So I feel the same way now about Wendy and Eddie. And I also just feel like a lot of it, if not all of it, all boils down to keeping up with the Joneses in the housewives world. Once you get on a show like The Housewives, where the core of it is opulence and wealth and being around other women and designer clothes and designer bags and their big houses, and it's like, what? I have to be able to keep up. If I don't keep up, what does that mean for me on the show? What does that mean for my reputation? What does that mean for the way people perceive me? Well, I would argue, how's that reputation now, Wendy and Eddie? I know that's harsh, but when you really lay it all out on the table, it's like you have someone like, no offense, Gina from the Real Housewives of Orange County. She doesn't pretend to have all the money in the world. She's got her casita and she's happy as a clam. We prefer that over illegal activity. You know what I'm saying? But some people just get swept up in it. And like they said, Wendy and Eddie, they'll have their day in court. We'll see how it plays out. But I feel like at this moment in time, they got swept up in it. Okay, let's move on to headline number 2. Gary Turner, the former Golden Bachelor. I'm ticked off at Gary, to be completely honest with you. I'm ticked off at him. He's coming out with this new memoir. And the amount of shade that came from Gary Turner just in the interview about his memoir was shocking to me in the way that he was talking about his ex-wife, Teresa Nist. So he did an interview with Us Weekly to promote his new memoir, The Golden Years, which is coming out on November 4th. He talked about a number of different things. He said that before they went out on Good Morning America to announce their divorce, they agreed to protect each other publicly. And Gary says that's not how it played out. He said, right before Teresa and I went on GMA to announce our divorce, we agreed that we would protect each other, and I don't feel like that happened. I feel like I was made out to be the villain. Now, this is really interesting because he says he was made out to be the villain. as I was reading this interview and going through his answers to the questions, honestly, I was like, Gary, honey, you don't need any help in making yourself look like the villain when you're answering these public interview questions like this. Like, don't blame it on Teresa, because what are you doing? Okay, when asked if Teresa should be worried about what's in the book, somebody said, the interviewer said, "Are you worried?" He says, "I'm not worried. I think Teresa should be worried," which is just like a weird thing to say. Like, someone in your 70s, I would think you would want to like move away from the drama a little bit, but Gary's just diving in. He said that their marriage ended because their lifestyles didn't align. He wanted to slow down and retire. Teresa wanted to keep working, which he says during the show that was not portrayed accurately. You know, she said, if I meet the right man, I'll be ready to slow down. He says, well, we got off the show and she didn't want to give up working. Sounds to me like it wasn't the right man, you know? He also said he felt empty on proposal day. And that had more to do with Leslie and dealing with the heartbreak of breaking up with somebody, you know, however many hours before flipping the switch and, you know, getting engaged to somebody else, which I've actually talked about this on the Bravo Patreon or the Bachelor Patreon. I do think it's so phony in Bachelor Nation when they have these big proposal day, and in 1 second you are breaking up with somebody, your heart shattered, and then you turn around 5 seconds later and they're acting like it's the happiest day of their life. I don't believe you, especially if you tell two people that you love them and that's real and accurate, which I feel like it has happened on the shows. I mean, we've seen how some of these people can be really tore up on their final proposal day. So I don't actually fault Gary for saying that he felt empty on proposal day. I think it's a misleading word. And when you obviously unpack it, and he's talking about his heartbreak with Leslie, that's a little different. He says, if there was some time between then, I think I would have felt differently. But then it says, you told second runner-up Faith Martin you felt trapped ahead of the Golden Wedding. He said, commitment is a big thing, and I felt like I was doing the right thing. I just didn't feel overjoyed about it. Well, Teresa Nist responded to Us Weekly saying, it makes me very sad to think that he felt empty and trapped. I wish he had said something and just ended it. But at least now I understand why he was so hurtful to me so many times. And I will say, those in glass houses should not throw stones. I do wish him all the best. Now, after reading this interview, I came to a revelation that I am wholeheartedly, without a doubt, 100% team Teresa Nist. Because him saying she should be worried is hurtful, right? So Teresa let us know, you know, now I understand why he was so hurtful to me so many times. That's behind closed doors. He just did it in public. So now, you know, the two kind of check out. Gary says he thinks Teresa was there for the wrong reasons, looking back on it, which is ironic because I only see one of them trying to sell a memoir after one stint on reality television. And it's not Teresa. And wasn't up on what Teresa has been doing post-Bachelor appearance. So I went to her Instagram. You know what she does? She talks about protein smoothies and her diet. Like, sue her, right? That does not mean she was not there for the wrong reasons. And if she was really there for the wrong reasons, she wouldn't want to still work, right? Because she would want to be an influencer. But her career is important to her and she is still working. So if Gary was worried about the optics, if he was trying to fight the villain label, this interview did not exactly help his image. I think actually made it worse. And if the book is anything like the interview, I can't imagine that that's going to help either. You know what I'm saying? So, la-di-da. Let's move on to headline number 3. Reported, rumored new item, John Mayer and Kat Stickler. I'm processing it. I kind of buffered for a minute. You know, when you get the spinny wheel of death on your computer, like I was trying to figure it out in my head. Yeah, John Mayer and Kat Stickler. If you don't know who Kat Stickler is, she is a social media personality, real big on TikTok, real big on Instagram. She dated Jason Tardik for a while. When she rose to TikTok fame, she was married at the time, but then they got divorced and she started dating. I don't know if she dated somebody else, but I really started paying attention. When she started dating Jason, then they broke up. Then she very quickly this summer soft launched a new guy in July, and fans were like, oh, yay, we're so happy you found love. And now gone, removed, scrubbed. Can't find him anywhere. Was he an imaginary friend? I don't know. Poof, vanished, gone. Called Dateline. Because where did this man go? Well, apparently she's dating John Mayer. So why are you going to have pictures of your ex when you're dating John Mayer? So this all started with Dumois, of course, saying that they were spotted in New York City twice together over the weekend. They went to a members-only club in New York City on Friday, October 10th, and then Fly Fish Club on Saturday, October 11th. Dumois posted a photo of the two of them sitting next to each other at the private club. Okay, but this is where it gets interesting. So Dumois posted another update 2 days ago and said that it's already over because Kat Stickler got too excited and started telling other people and started talking loudly in restaurants about the fact that she was going on a date with John Mayer. According to Dumois, this is a quote, "That's how these things get out, and we all know he's not a fan of that." So somebody wrote that into Dumois. Last night she posted something funny. She posted, her friend was in the background and they were like, "Kat, are you single?" And she's like, "Yeah, I already told you that." And the friend's like, "Oh, but what?" And she's like, "Hello, I just chopped my hair off," because she did have hair down to like her shoulder blades. It's now bob. And she's like, talking about how we all know when you go through a crisis, your relationship ends, you just decide to do something crazy. Sometimes you get a balayage. Sometimes you get honey highlights, and sometimes you get a bob. So Kat's saying, yeah, I got a bob. So it's true. It's true. But I don't know if they're still dating. I think it would make an extremely interesting couple. And again, not that I know anything really about who John Mayer is as a person behind closed doors, but historically in the press, we have seen or heard that he likes to keep things more on the private side. And I can see Kat Stickler being extremely excited about dating John Mayer, maybe a little too excited, and him ending up breaking up with her because of it. But we'll have to keep our eyes peeled and keep checking Dumois. You guys also know how I feel about Dumois. Love and respect, but you do have to take it with a grain of salt. Okay, here we go. The Love is Blind deep dive, episodes 7 through 9. They leave the cursed island of Baja. I don't know where Baja is. I'm sorry if you're a Bahaian and you're like, no, it's a great place. I'm just saying in this context, it's not great for the people of Love is Blind. They're moving in together. They're meeting friends and family. So kind of how I did last week, we're going to break it down couple by couple, starting with Jordan and Sparkle Megan, which color me shocked that I really enjoy them. I really enjoy them. And I shouldn't say really. Because we have an interesting batch, okay, from season 9. So I would say more so than other couples, I'm enjoying Jordan and Megan. So many interesting things to discuss here. First of all, Jordan had a chicken and Crystal Light smoothie. Again, speechless. Very rarely do I have nothing to say about a topic, but if my husband was downing a chicken and Crystal Light smoothie, I don't really know what I would do. I'd probably start looking, for an exit plan, but you got to get that protein in one way or another. They go house hunting, looking at $2 million homes in Colorado, and then there's one real big point of contention between the two of them, and it's not so much a fight as it is a logistical issue of whether or not Megan is going to meet Jordan's son, Luca, before they walk down the aisle. So in episode 8, Megan visits Jordan's apartment. She sees Luca's room. Later, I believe it's in episode 9, Megan talks about meeting Luca's mom, Skylar, off camera and said it felt normal. There was no tension, but at that moment in time, she still had not met Luca. They're not going to do it on camera, which I totally respect. Both parents said we don't want our child on camera. I totally 100% respect it. In the episode, she says, we plan to meet Luca later this week, but Megan's concerned about the timeline, saying, what if I don't meet him for 2 weeks and then we are getting married? I thought Jordan meeting Megan's mom and sister was a really sweet moment. I felt like it was a solidifying moment for their relationship. The fact that they talk about both Megan's late father and Jordan's son, Luca, both having type 1 diabetes and how that bonds their families together. I do think that these two have deeper emotional bonds than some of the other couples. And I love that Megan, she doesn't take the bait with Mike either, because Mike comes in Episode 9, when they go to that rodeo and he's like, do you think you made the right decision? She's like, yeah. And Mike just still gives me, I don't like the energy. I don't like the energy from Mike. But again, the looming question is about Jordan's son. And I honestly do think that the wedding and making it to the altar will hinge on that. I think if she doesn't meet him, they're not going to go to the altar. It's just my prediction. I also was thinking about this. Maybe it's just something to think about. You know, I was comparing it to, this is going to be, you're going to be like, are you insane? I was comparing Hurrdat from Love Island to Jordan from Love is Blind. I get it, two totally different people. But one is a single mother and one is a single father. And what did you always hear about Hurrdat while she was on Love Island? What kind of mom leaves their son or daughter for however many weeks to go on Love Island? I'm not hearing it that much when it comes to Jordan, quite frankly. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong for single parents to go on these shows to spend extended amount of time away from their kids. You know, it's their life, it's their decision. They're going to do what they're going to do. But I'm just saying, I think it's interesting that that was a big point of contention during Love Island, and you're not hearing a lot of it during Love is Blind. So let's move on to Annie and Nick, which before they leave Baja, they get in a really big fight as well. And this fight between Annie and Nick really rubbed me the wrong way. Annie was telling Nick, you're annoying me. Nick was saying, you're looking for a reason to doubt us. And then Annie gets into the argument, I don't need you. I want you, but I don't need you, which I don't like the argument. I don't like the I don't need you argument, because what exactly is the point of it? In my opinion, Annie was hurting because she wasn't getting the 100% validation that she needed to feel secure in her relationship with Nick, that he would say yes at the altar. So what does she do? I'm going to hurt you the way I feel hurt right now. I'm going to tell you I don't need you to make you feel a little bit of that insecurity that I'm feeling in this moment. She's like, I don't need you. My life will go on. It's like, okay, what are you trying to prove? And I almost feel like she was trying to get an emotional reaction out of Nick to where she says that. And he says, no, we're getting married. We are getting married. But he didn't do that. And I get the sentiment, like life goes on if you end up together or if you don't. But to me, it's just read as a projection of the insecurity she has about them not ending up together. And we've all been insecure. I mean, I don't blame her for that. She's a human. She has emotions. It's a crazy experience. So I don't think the fight is a deal breaker, but I do think it is probably a learning moment for her. Maybe we'll see. Back in Denver, they seem to be doing well, right? They go up to Nick's mountain house and, you know, he's got the simulator, and it's like at first I rolled my eyes about the simulator, and then I realized that probably 3 to 4 times a week, my husband comes to me begging me to put a golf simulator in our shed. So, you know, it is what it is. Sometimes these guys, they want to retrieve to 12-year-old Nick, 12-year-old David, and they need some type of simulator in their house. It just is what it is. Sometimes you have to deal with it. When you are with a man, it's just part of the territory. But, you know, Nick said he's been willing to compromise on city living. She's like, I have my hair salon here. I can't go anywhere. But they seem to be okay. So then we get to Allie and Anton, and we have this new narrative emerging with Anton and his drinking habits. He likes to party hard. He likes to go to strip clubs. And this is brand new information to Allie. He didn't talk about it in the pods because, like, who would, right? And she doesn't like it. Can't say that I disagree with her, you know, especially when you get to a certain age, you're looking for a certain level of maturity and judgment, I guess. You know, I personally find it to be super unattractive when a guy who's over the age of, I don't know, 35 is getting blackout drunk and going to strip clubs. Like, I just personally don't find that as husband material. If you do, no shade, right? But TBD on how intense it's going to be. Right now, it's like subtly creating a problem, right? They have this meeting because they haven't met family yet. They've just met friends, and they're meeting Anton's close friend and his new girlfriend of 4 months. And they go to the bathroom. It's like our imitates life, right? They go to the bathroom and she's like, okay, tell me everything. We've all done that before, right? And she's like, yeah, they were going to strip clubs like however many weeks ago. I've only been dating this guy for 4 months. I made him stop. And Allie's like, yeah, I would hope so. I would hope so. But anyways, the friends right now, they're just party buddies and they don't know each other in these committed relationships. So we'll see if Anton can rise to the occasion, put down the booze, and quit going to the strip club. So next we have KB and Edmund. And they're coming off of this fight in Baja about her wanting to wait to have sex until after they get married. I'm going to chalk up Edmund's reaction to him being drunk because he did act like, in my opinion, he threw a tantrum, like a true, tried and true tantrum. But as we see in these other episodes, conflict arises and he doesn't act like that. He still doesn't react the best, in my opinion. And I do think that it's planting some seeds of doubt in KB about his emotional maturity. But, he apologizes to KB the next day. KB says, I'm glad it happened, but it does expose a pattern. And we'll see it later in episode 9 that Edmund doesn't handle emotional conflict well, or the way that KB needs him to. We do see KB meet Edmund's mom. Edmund prepares breakfast while his mom and KB have these heartfelt conversations. She offers her some cultural beads, talks about her son's vulnerabilities, expresses her approval of the relationship, and is like, can you guys have some babies? So that went over really well. But then we get to the rodeo party where Edmund, in front of others, makes a remark comparing their relationship to others, effectively questioning how much KB values him. And KB is like annoyed by it, instantly triggered. She's like, you are emotionally manipulating me. You're not validating on my boundaries, she's fed up in this moment. She walks away and Edmund's trying to de-escalate the situation by, but I love you, I love you, I love you. And that's an immature way to try to smooth things over. When you are in a serious committed relationship, you're going to have tough moments of conflict that you need to be able to talk through. And I just haven't seen yet that Edmund, at least in the edit, is able to do that. She doesn't want to hear it. She's saying, I love you isn't going to smooth this over. We need to have a talk like adults. There's no resolution at the party. And Edmund just looks sad in the corner by himself. I feel bad for the guy. I want them to be able to have this conflict resolution, but it seems to be a pattern as well. I mean, we know they make it to the altar based on the previews. I have no idea what's going to happen at that altar, but I can't imagine it's going to be good. Last but certainly not least, save the best for last, Joe and Madison. I don't think anybody gets on my nerves quite like Joe and Madison. Both of them individually for different reasons. They both have redeeming qualities, as we all do. I'm annoying to some people and I have redeeming qualities, but you guys, I just think they like to fight with each other. You know that couple that love to just pick and poke and prod and then they explode and then they love to just snuggle up. And then they do it every single weekend and you're like, oh, I'm so over it. Can you guys just break up already? That's the vibe that I'm getting from Joe and Madison. After the pool party, things really boil over. Madison's crying. She leaves the bedroom. She's crying outside the door. Joe's like, I'm asleep. I'm literally sleeping. Can you stop crying? Not a care in the world that his fiance is hyperventilating in the corner. They both apologize the next day, but it doesn't last long because they get in another argument in their apartments about Madison. Okay, Joe says to Madison, why don't you have more reservations about this whole process? You don't show any worry. I don't see any worry on your face. And Madison's like, do you want me to be negative, miserable girl? And it's like, no, 0 to 100, and Joe pushes further. He's like, if you showed some hesitation, it would make me feel like we're in more of a real human relationship, like we're in it together. But the fact that you're so sure scares me a little bit. And she's like, no, I do have reservations, but they're internal because I know what I signed up for. This show is meant to be for marriage. I know what I'm getting into and I'm not scared because I was hopeful that it would end up like this, which both of them, honestly, quite frankly, both of them red flags all over the field. I agree on one hand with Madison that you know what you're getting into. I agree with Joe on the other hand that there has to be one little seed of doubt. And if you're not expressing it to your partner, it could read as inauthentic or disingenuous in a setting like a reality TV dating show, right? So there is this reoccurring pattern with Madison and Joe, and I think it all boils down to the fact that Madison isn't able to trust Joe with her emotions. And I get it, the fights are annoying. Yeah, they're so annoying. It's like every time I have to turn the volume down just a little bit because it's like starts to hurt my ears at a certain point. But I can't say that I entirely blame Madison. Yes, Joe is funny. He's attractive. He has these one-liners. He would be a great friend. I don't know in this situation with Madison if he makes for the best husband to her. I do think some of her points are a bit unrealistic. You know, Joe is allowed to feel scared over the experience. It's not normal. But I also think because of what happened in Baja, Madison doesn't have much trust in Joe to handle her heart with care. That's just how I feel. And that keeps popping up in these fights. And you look at them and you think they're definitely not getting married, right? Like those two at the altar have the potential to go down in Love is Blind history as like a rough time if they get to the altar. Although when Joe meets the family, he's like, oh, this is why I fell in love with her. And we're just like, don't do it. Please, don't do it. I don't know who's going to get married at this point, to be quite honest with you. Like I said, I think Annie and Nick, maybe, possibly. It's just so crazy. It might work. All right, let's move on to final thoughts. We have to talk about the Southern Charm Season 11 trailer dropped last week, and it looks good. It looks good, which I have to say I didn't necessarily have. I don't always love trailers anyways. Like when trailers drop, everybody's like, oh my gosh. And I'm just like, 99% of the time what's in the trailer isn't in the show anyway, so I don't really get all hyped up, but I did really like this trailer. It looks really good. It looks better than season 10, which I kind of felt like season 10 was a bit of a snooze. So I'm just going to kind of walk through some of the talking points from the trailer. The first being a love triangle seemingly between Sally, Craig, and Sally's best friend, who is a new cast member. Her name is Charlie. So Craig is single, ready to mingle, hot commodity on the streets of Charleston. You know, women are just going to be throwing themselves at the Pillow Prince himself, and he's going to have quite the heyday, and it seems like he is. And, you know, I'm skeptical of the love triangle situation between Sally, Craig, and Charlie already. Because what are the chances that, you know, they want a new cast member, it ends up being Sally's best friend, Charlie. And what are the chances that Sally's best friend, Charlie, goes for the guy that Sally also likes the one summer or whenever it was that they decide to film season 11 of Southern Charm? It just feels far-fetched to me. And it also feels familiar when you remember we've been here, done that with Olivia, Austen, and Taylor Ann Green. I kind of feel like, I don't know who's to blame, if it's the cast or maybe if it's the producers or if it's somewhere in between where they're like, oh, everybody was talking about the show when Olivia and Taylor and Austen were in this love triangle. So let's try to recreate something like that, but this time with Craig. Do you get what I'm saying? Feels familiar. Speaking of Olivia, did you guys see? This is like bizarro too. She called off her wedding, but I think she's still with the fiance. So she posted, and this is weird too. It was like her brand agency or her agent or somebody posted it and then collaborated with her that they weren't going through with the wedding. It didn't say that they broke up. So I think they're still together. I have no idea. But, you know, that was interesting. Bring Olivia back, bring Olivia back. And people are thinking, oh, is Austen going to slide into Olivia's DMs? Because we know that Austen and Audrey are not together. We'll get into that in the trailer as well. But, you know, Vanita's looking out for Sally in the Craig of it all. She says he'll walk you like a dog on a leash until he's done with you. Period. Point blank, period. And I know sometimes Vanita gets some backlash, honestly, for just being on Southern Charm. A lot of people look at Vanita and they're like, she doesn't fit in with the rest of the cast. It feels kind of disjointed. For that quote alone, bring it on. Keep her forever. I don't care. He'll walk you like a dog on a leash until he's done with you. Girl, clock it. Clock the T. Yeah, like I said, in the trailer, Audrey and Austen's relationship seems questionable. There's this dinner scene with Madison where she's like, are you bored in your relationship with Audrey? And he's like, yeah, kind of. It's pretty easy. He adopted 2 cats on his own. When, I said when women cut their hair, they're going through a breakup. When a guy gets a cat, that's when you know. That's when you know that that man is going through a breakup. He kisses Sally in the trailer, so it's pretty obvious, I think, that he's single. But then we get to maybe my favorite. I love when Craig and Austen fight with each other. I love it. It throws Shep into the mix. I love when they gossip together at the bar. I love when they're in screaming matches. I love when those boys act like housewives more than the housewives. It's my favorite. And I know. It's like, Morgan, that's so toxic. I don't know if it is or not, but they entertain me, those boys. They're not afraid to be petty. Like the girls. And Austen and Craig seem to be at odds a lot these days. Austen says in the trailer, or Craig says, Austen hates me. He says, yeah, I do hate you. We see Austen dressed up as Hermione, yelling at Craig, saying, why are you so unhappy? And Craig, I don't know, he looks like Kid Rock or something, saying, you said you're jealous of me that I'm single. Then we get this big blow up moment that ends the trailer. And Austen says, you're a lost soul. You want to be anybody but yourself, and it's obvious. I watched that so many times because honestly, it just filled me with such joy. Austen Kroll is a reality TV star, and you can't convince me otherwise. He's in it. He's ready to play. He's ready to tell Craig, you're a lost soul. You want to be anybody but yourself, and it's obvious. And he doesn't care. In that velvet tux that we see at every gentleman's dinner that Miss Patricia throws, I'm here for it. And honestly, the lore, if you should go back and rewatch some of the earlier seasons of Southern Charm, because this is a common theme. And it's one of those things where you don't know if Austen says that because he genuinely believes it, or if he knows that people have said things like this to Craig in the past, that Craig is sometimes a bit of a shapeshifter. Early in Southern Charm, he was studying law and wanting to become a lawyer and taking the bar, even though he wasn't at that time. Then he was working in this whiskey company with JD, and he didn't get promoted fast enough. And then he has these relationships where he might change his wants and needs and the way that he behaves to appease whatever woman he's in a relationship with. So I can't say, based on what I've seen on the show, that Austen is wrong if he's saying that to Craig. But I am wondering if we are getting edit duped, because a lot of times they'll put something in the trailer and it'll make it seem like Austen's yelling at Craig when really he's yelling at somebody else. Although when you go to the Bravo website and you look at the cast bios for each cast member for season 11 of Southern Charm, it does say him and Craig are continuously at odds. But I'm confused because they're in business together with their restaurant in Charleston. I got a DM saying they're going on vacations together. Like, what is this? Are they trying to just pull one over on us and make for good TV? I don't know. But if they are, keep doing it because I'm enjoying it. Okay. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day into the weekend. If you want more, Bravo Friday pops off on Friday, obviously. Patreon.com/Morgan's Pop Talks. Like I said, I'm going to give you more details about Carl's book, some of the more juicy stories, like he watched a guy die in like a Criminal Minds type of way, like was involved in an investigation. It's crazy. Okay, I don't want to give too much away. Anyways, I am going on a family vacation on Friday, so I'm actually not going to have an episode of MPT next week, letting you guys all know now, but I'll be back just in time for the Love is Blind finale and reunion. We'll dive all into it. So I'll see you then. And as always, love you like a sis.